Good morning. We welcome you back for yet again another session of the Breakfast Meeting here on NBS Television. Once again, my name is Isabella Tugumi. Our first conversation was pertaining to Starbucks, but now we want to understand the relevance of insuring your business in the new normal. Many people are wondering if it's still quite relevant to have insurance, but we want to understand this morning how exactly we can go about it, and of course how their business has been affected by COVID-19, their plans post-COVID-19 for their customers and as well consumers. Joining me this morning are two gentlemen from the Insurance Regulatory Authority. That is Mr. San de Protazio, who is the Director of Planning Research and Market Development at IRA, and also Mr. Kananura Chris, the Manager Inspection at the Insurance Regulatory Authority. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
It's the first time here. I've interviewed you before. You've come to the business perspective, but it's my first time seeing you. Welcome.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
It's nice to have you. My first question will go to you since you're the latest guest. How is the insurance industry performing lately, given the current global pandemic?
Yeah, thank you, Isabella. And I'm glad to be at NBS. Actually, I think this is my third time here, but maybe the first interaction.
Yes.
The sector has been hit, just like any other sector. Insurance has not been spared. But the only unique thing is that, these insurers are risk managers. They have responded pretty well. Certainly, in terms of business volumes, when we look at figures for the first quarter, there was some reasonable growth of about 13%. But we are compiling the second quarter statistics. We seem to see a decline of about maybe 10-20% in business. And for us, we're actually happy because when we compare with other sectors, the impact on the insurance sector has not been that bad because they had some resilience mechanisms in place already. They responded so quickly in terms of IT investments to fit within the restrictions which were provided by government. They responded so quickly in terms of claims payments. The challenge that we see is that some policies have lapsed, and that's expected. If people are not working, there is no inflows, you expect some policies to lapse because of lack of premium payments. Renewals are low, and certainly new businesses are very low. So, whereas the sector has responded pretty well, there is still some slowdown in terms of business activity. Though, as we have just begun the third quarter, that especially with the new financial year, we expect a lot of new businesses to come in. Government is a major player in the insurance space, and with the starting of the new budget, we expect the sector again to pick up in this coming quarter.
All right. Yeah. Mr. Kananura, I would like for you to help us understand, given that COVID-19 came in March and has had subsequent effects on the economy and has affected as well the insurance business. Talk to us how it has affected the insurance business and the provision to the public.
First and foremost, I want to start by thanking government for the measures they put in place to slow down the pandemic. Nonetheless, when it comes to how the insurance sector has been affected by this pandemic, we start by looking at the global perspective, where you find that the global supply chain has greatly been disrupted. You know as well as I do that most of our traders, most of our goods and services are procured from outside. So when you have a country like China closing its factories, that has a ripple effect on how our operation, how we operate. Most times you find that these traders want to go and see what they're going to bring in the country, purchase, and then eventually these goods arrive in the country. There is a travel ban. These traders cannot travel. The arcades are locked. So this has a ripple effect on how the insurance operates. As if that was not enough, you know as well as I do that some of the industries, some of the sectors have had to lay off some staff. When that is done, it has a ripple effect on the insurance sector. For instance, like the tourism sector has been hardly hit. There are no tourists who are coming in. And I think you very well know that the tourism sector has been a very big contributor to the economy of Uganda. So you find that because there are no tourists coming in, the hotels have had to close, staff have had to be laid off, and that at the end of the day has a very negative impact on the insurance sector. I know my colleague talked about the second quarter, but as we look at those figures, we are definitely going to see some downward trend because of all these effects. Because one of the things that we need to appreciate is that usually insurance is at the lowest level, because a person who has been consuming insurance will first of all meet their basic needs. So when someone is not working and they want to meet their basic needs, definitely insurance will be somewhere on the low, down on the list. So that has had a negative impact, but we do hope that things will get better.
Hopefully. Yeah. Given that you've pointed out some of the things that COVID-19 has done, it has badly affected the supply chains, it has as well affected people's businesses. Now, given what has happened, why would anyone, be it small, medium or large business, consider insurance as a priority during the new normal, Mr. Sand?
Yeah, actually COVID has made insurance to be more relevant, even for those probably who had never thought about insurance. From the very basics, insurance is a safety net, and when things go wrong. And indeed, COVID has demonstrated that things can go wrong. This has been COVID. We don't know what will happen tomorrow, next year. And the impact of COVID has been so significant that everybody now thinks about risks. So I think this is a very timely show to tell Ugandans that insurance is the right thing to do. My colleague talked of our culture that looks at insurance as secondary. But I think this COVID should be able to make us all risk aware, risk conscious, so that insurance becomes primary. That actually among the top 5 priorities that you consider when you get your income, or as a business person, whether small, medium or large, insurance should be among the top 5. When you read texts, they say insurance is for the small guys. But COVID has not also saved the big guys, because the thinking was that the big guys can manage. But we have clearly seen that even the big guys are shaking without an appropriate insurance mechanism. So back to the question, why? Insurance is meant to provide that safety net. For a business, the focus should be on 2 things. Number 1, the assets, the equipment, the machinery, the computers, but also the workers, the stock, among others. I have some friends in the business community. After the lockdown, they went to open their shops. Things had been destroyed by rats, the equipment could not function, and that's a loss. Then number 2, the potential liability. It is possible that with this lockdown and several other risks that may come, there is potential being sued. You have you have contractual obligations, but you have not been able to meet these contractual obligations. An explanation of the pandemic may not be adequate. But do you have a mechanism in place to ensure that whenever you are sued, because it is possible you can be sued by the employees, you can be sued by the people that you supply. My colleague talked about supply chains, because there is some challenges with your supply and you can no longer supply, and it causes to me financial loss. You can be sued. So all those potential liabilities can bring you down completely. So you look at the assets, but you also look at the potential liabilities. And we want to advise the business community that actually, I think it is a mindset that insurance is probably expensive, but it's not. Most of these insurances are affordable. But when you look at the value proposition within the insurance, it is actually big. We have some experts on the market whom we call insurance brokers, who provide professional advice. So our plea to the business community is that you go and engage a licensed insurance broker. Discuss the dynamics of your business. The broker will be able to help you identify the potential risks that can bring down your businesses. You may not have prepared for this COVID, but it is possible you can prepare for the future. And the broker should be able to tell you, you need a policy which is of this form, which is of this quantity, which is of this scope. And please, put aside money to buy an insurance policy. Because this is, forewarned is, Yeah, so this has been a wake-up call to all of us, business community especially, that insurance is very, very critical. With insurance, people who have insurance, appropriate insurance now, can even access credit easily. Because when you have an appropriate insurance cover, you're a lower risk to the bank. That's how we look at the synergies. Because as a bank, I will look at you as a person who is risk conscious, who has a mechanism, who has made yourself who has put yourself in a position that even when risks occur, you stay afloat. So it is very critical that insurance is looked at as a cost of doing business. Just like you pay for umeme and you pay for water, you should also have some space to accommodate insurance.
Sorry. Forward is for we've told them.
Yeah, sure.
It is now. All right, so Mr. Kananoda, as a regulator, what measures have you put in place to facilitate insurance companies and also help insurance policyholders manage their premium remittances without much pressure?
Yeah, as the regulator, we have put out several measures. Given the fact that one of the main objectives of the applaud some of the insurance companies that took providing health insurance and life insurance, because ordinarily there are clauses in the policy which accept where in the event that a pandemic is declared, then the policy would not support any claim that arises out of the related pandemic. But we were able to engage health insurers and life insurers so that in the event that any of the policy holders is affected by the pandemic, falls sick as a result of COVID, then the health companies should be able to provide assistance by way of testing, by way of taking care of that patient. The life companies also, in the event that somebody passed on as a result of COVID, we also engaged them and they accepted to provide coverage to any person that may be affected by COVID. So I want to applaud those companies that agreed to work with us so that we heed to the government's call that we should be in a position to take care of those who might be affected by COVID. Fortunately, I think we've not had any claim coming in, but you can't know because this pandemic is still on. The other measure that we actually put out was the issue of requiring the insurance companies not to pay out dividends, because we are very cognizant of the fact that this company must remain strong throughout. So those that would have ordinarily paid out dividends to their shareholders, we told them no, let us first of all see what happens so that they're in a position, because once the capital resources are available, it means that they will take care of any claims that may arise. The other guidance that we gave was in respect of deferring premium payments, because this is unprecedented. Ordinarily in the new act of 2017, we require that the premium should be paid upfront before a policy is issued. But now these are unprecedented times. We have issues, we have situations where people have been laid off. We have situations where the revenue streams have gone down. So we told the insurers, we agreed with the insurers that let us stagger the premium payment. Instead of requiring it at the beginning of the policy issuance, let us stagger it for about 90 days so that somebody is able to, pay slowly until eventually when they are in a position to settle the premium payment so that there is appropriate coverage. We also encouraged them to use IT because at the end of the day, all of a sudden, IT is very, very critical to our operations. Working from home is the new normal. So we've encouraged them to work from home. If there are any board meetings, have virtual meetings. Yes, we have relaxed the frequency of those board meetings, but nonetheless, we've encouraged the players that if you are required to have a board meeting, do it in a virtual way so that at the end of the day, things can go on, policies can continue to be implemented, and also to ensure that they comply with all the relevant requirements of the law.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Sandy Protazio, are there any lessons that the insurance industry has picked from the outbreak of this pandemic that can be inbuilt for the industry to thrive?
Sure. Indeed, it is only the blind who would not learn from this pandemic. There are 3 key lessons that the insurers have learned or ought to learn. Number 1 is the need to rethink. Because like Chris mentioned, this pandemic made it obvious that the existing operation models may not deliver. And that's why he's talking about incorporating IT into their strategy. So that information technology becomes a strategic function. So they need to sit down and rethink their operation models because this has happened. We are talking of the new normal. The new normal may not be the other normal that we are used to, meaning that those operative models of filling forms and taking so many days and having formal meetings, etc., may not work. So they need to rethink. That's a very key lesson. Number 2 is to re-engage. The needs have changed. The customer expectations have changed. This COVID has made, it has resulted into emergence of new needs. Your expectations as an insurance customer are different. When you tell me that you submit your claims form, I think about the COVID. How possible will it be if there is a lockdown? So the expectations have changed. So they need to re-engage the customers. They need to re-engage everybody on the supply chain so that they come up with solutions that respond to the consumer needs. So in this particular case, insurers have to review their products. They have to review their exclusions. These standard exclusions may not stand the test of time. COVID has showed us that change now is a fact of life. So if you want to remain in your corner, probably you may not survive. So they need to re-engage and come up with solutions that are responsive to the needs of the times. And number 3, it would be then to relaunch. We expect to see new faces of companies in this new normal so that they fit within the circumstances of the time. So 3 lessons: they need to rethink, they need to re-engage, and ultimately they need to relaunch themselves into new companies that are able to supply new solutions that fit within the new normal.
All right. Speaking of the new normal, Mr. Kananura, what does the future of the insurance sector look like?
Well, the future, I think my colleague has touched on some of the areas of how the future will be. But one of the things which fortunately we had pushed these companies to do was the issue of the business continuity planning, the business continuity and resilience planning. I think this has to be greatly enhanced because if you don't have the capabilities, if you have not properly digitalized your operations, then working from home becomes a story. So for you to be able to work from home, then you need to have the appropriate infrastructure. You must have the necessary, the necessary tools to enable you. Of course, that also comes with its challenges. We have hackers out there. We have people who fraudsters. Because like my colleague has talked about the issue of, the issue of settling claims, because that's one of the fundamental roles that the insurance company plays. That is when the insurance policy becomes tangible at the time of a claim. So under this arrangement, where you are social distancing, where you say we shouldn't be so many in a room, where you don't have to travel in a particular way, how then are you going to be able to settle these claims? So these are some of the things that really have to change. There must be a way in which the insurers now accept the supporting information in a virtual way. It has challenges, but the insurers need to work out to ensure that those challenges are overcome, because at the end of the day, the issue of you trying to saying that let me first see this other computer which has broken down might be something in the past. The other issue is that when it comes to new and renewal business, there has always been the insistence we must see the car, we must see the building, we must. So they have to devise ways and means in a flexible way. How can we bring this business on board, but at the same time without reaching, without seeing? Because at the end of the day, they must make sure that they take on genuine business, because fraudsters are also out there. They have to take a very serious caution, so that at the end of the day, only genuine businesses are taken on board. The famous WFH, I think, cannot be emphasized much more. They're working from home. It is something that I think we are going to talk about more and more. And the only thing is for them to perfect it. Last but not least, those who support the insurance operations, the distribution channels, must also change in a similar way. Because if you are a broker and you are supporting this insurance company, then you must also change the way you do things. Then you must also digitalize your operations. If you are a loss assessor or a loss adjuster and you're going to confirm that this claim happened, then you must change the way you've been doing things. So across the entire insurance industry, we have to see changes, including us, the regulator. Even us, we are undergoing some changes. We are doing things differently from the way we used to do them, but we also expect the rest of the insurers and the other intermediaries to do likewise and change and do things differently.
All right, Femi, thank you so much for sparing time to speak to us and enlighten us on the essence of insuring a business in the new normal. It was really nice having you. Before I let you go, I'll start with you, Mr. Protazio, and wind up with you, Mr. Kanandra. Tell our viewers in under 30 seconds what you want them to take home from the conversation we had this morning.
From this conversation, our viewers, we want you to think and act insurance. Regardless of the business you're doing, whether you're in the events management, events have been cancelled. If you're in the tourism industry, you know what has happened. If you're in the manufacturing, for as long as you have assets and their potential liabilities, insurance should not exceed the 5th on the list of your priorities.
All right, thank you, Mr. Protazio. Mr. Kanandra.
For me, I think what I can end with is that much as we have these challenges, the risks have not gone away. So at the end of the day, let us protect our assets, let us protect our lives, and under this new normal, the insurers might come to you that now we are going to do A, B, C, D in this way. We urge the policyholders and policy beneficiaries out there to cooperate with them. We also maybe need to inform the viewers out there that we have a complaints bureau. Should anything happen and you are not in agreement with the insurance company or the intermediary, come to our offices. Complain, we'll be able to take care of that.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you too. It was really nice hosting you. We're having a conversation this morning pertaining to the essence of ensuring your business in the new normal. As they've pointed out, this is a time where risks are highly averse. So this is the greatest time to take up insurance, and the risks continue. So you might as well try and get yourself insured, and as well as your business. In case you have any challenges, please be sure to visit their offices and they will be ready to assist you.